All right. That lighting's interesting. Hi, everybody. How are we doing? Testing out some lighting things here. Okay, I think that worked. All right. I'm gonna do another one of these. Always good times. See how this is working. I'm gonna give it like 5 minutes. Let a few people come in. Wow. Testing some audio and sound stuff so I can continue to enhance the launch studio here. If you watched our podcast this week, Kira and I got some new studio stuff, which we're excited about. We have a new backdrop. We're going to be live pretty much every Saturday. We're going to try to do it every Saturday. And have a different topic every Saturday. We're pretty excited about it. The studio is definitely developing. We're getting sound equipment. We're getting backdrop now. We're enhancing everything about it. So we're excited about Launch Radio every Saturday live, and then I usually put the episode out the following Friday. So we should have a new one of those coming tomorrow. Let's see who else in here. What's up, Johan? I saw Johan in the live Kieran, my podcast this past Saturday. Good to see you as always, buddy. So yeah, it's things have been good. Other than that, I'm gonna give it another couple minutes here, and then we can go through some things. I got one of these. It's like a, what do you call them? Like a doggle or a Steadicam thing, so that I can do things that are mobile. Pretty excited about that. That's another update. And then I have some more Mandela Effect videos, which should be coming probably next week. I think I'm going to do one, but I also want to work other topics in. I do not want to be a totally, as we've discussed, I don't want to be a totally Mandela-centric channel. So I will have other topics that variate about current events, and I have a sports topic coming up, and some other, fun things that often connect to it, but I don't want to do all Mandela. I see these channels doing all Mandela, and it's, there are other things going on, and I like to talk about everything that's going on. So I will continue to variate it as things go along. It is great for vlogging. We're gonna give it another minute, and whoever's here, we will go with. Testing. Wow, that's cool. Just gonna let some more people. So those are the updates. Then I'll talk to you guys about everything else that's going on once some more people get in here. As you saw last week, I put a couple videos out. We'll just go ahead and get going now. Last week I put a couple videos out. One was kind of wrapping up my top 2019 Mandela Effects, which was a lot of fun, but very stressful for me because like that group, that 20 Mandelas just really, obviously those were pretty big for me, most of them. I think all of them pretty much hit me pretty good. So that was a big 12. So they just doing the videos, it really does stress me because a lot of them I have the Mandela effect to me myself. So when I have to then talk about it and explain it, it really does become stressful. So when I'm doing that, that's quite genuine because they affect me as well. So just to let you guys know that they definitely have an effect on me. So I did a top 12, and then I did some new ones that were kind of brand, like that whole lasagna, like Colgate lasagna and Colgate chicken. That was just so weird. The new orca one is pretty weird with the mustache on the orca behind its fin. Like I never remembered that. That was weird. This was in the second video from last week. And then I'm just kind of going to keep reviewing it. And then the other one that really got me was the, what were the other? Oh gosh, there were just so many. The new Coke and like Coca-Cola. That whole thing was weird, and the Frito-Lay lemonade and the Cheeto lip balm. That's just all so weird. I mean, maybe it's misremembering. Different people say different things. Some people remember it, some don't. But those all really, really got me. And then what was the other one in that video? The cream cheese, Philadelphia cream cheese. Was invented in New York. That was one. Not as powerful as the others, but the orca one was definitely weird. The 9/11 tower one was weird with the stripes now on the towers. Like that was strange to me. And then the swing. If you see the swing illusion, I definitely had people commenting about that. So it was interesting seeing, kind of what you guys saw with the swing versus what you did. I can see it both ways now. Like literally when I look at the swing, it's a visual like the Yanni Laurel and the Brainstorm Green Needle. When I listen to Brainstorm Green Needle, whichever one I want to hear, I hear now. So I can do either one. I can like listen to it and either one comes. And I think that's the case with most people. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? We did this last time. I'll just do it real quick in case anybody's new. Brainstorm Green Needle. Green Needle is this. So whichever one you hear, that's what it's going to say. So if you think of brainstorm as this is going, you'll hear brainstorm. If you think of green needle, you'll hear green needle. So that's really weird. Like if you think of brainstorm, you hear brainstorm. If you think of green needle, you hear green needle. And then the swing one's the visual version of that, which I talked about in the last one as well, so I can hear brainstorm or green needle, whichever one. And then the swing, watching the guy swing, I can make him go towards the building or away from the building just on visual. So the senses, like the hearing and the visual, I can now flip-flop whichever way I want based on what I'm seeing or hearing. And it seems the audio is easier for people. Like people can flip it from brainstorm to green needle and Yanni Laurel, but the visual gets trickier for people. And it did take me for a bit to see both. But once you see both, you can kind of switch it back and forth. But I think that the big point about these is, we've got people commenting. Johan, yes, great for vlogging. Where is everybody? They'll be here. I hope. It's something stressed me out as well. Yeah, rest in peace, Mr. Peanut. I saw that. It's crazy. Howdy, Suzanne Ann. If you're here, say hello. We have 9 people. Sure like the video. Definitely like chatting with you guys. I was chatting after I posted the ones last week. That was a lot of fun. Mr. Peanut, rest in peace. Yes, Johan, that's very sad indeed. What was I going to say? What was I talking about? Yes, but I think that the bigger picture is, hi, Suzanne Ann. I think the bigger picture is that when you look at the video, version of the swinging and you listen to the audio, I think that they're symbols of what's happening on a bigger picture as a whole, like what's happening in society on a whole, just with perception and how we see things and hearing things and thinking about things. And we're doing it based on how we want to see them, how we want to think about them, how we rationalize things. So when you see the world, your view of the world is your view. That's how you're making sense of it. And we're all in our own little domain. And I think that these small versions of, when you look at the swing and you look at Yanni Laurel, etc., that's just the tiniest sample of how subjective reality really is for each of us. We're each experiencing our own subjective reality. If you didn't know that, then I don't know what to say. I know some people oppose that, but it's actually, I think, been proven now that things are very subjective and you're creating what you're seeing. And I think that what's happened with technology is we're realizing that more and more because we have internet and because we have technology that we didn't have before, and it's really going to open things up on a big scale, and it could open things up in so many ways. I mean, that actually plays into like simulation. The idea is the simulation. I mean, it can play into the parallel of how many realities. If it's a simulation, how many parallel realities and all that there could be. I mean, I don't know, just speculating here, but it definitely plays into simulation. And that because we can see now, based on technology, we can see past. We can see how memories are different from what we remember, and that's happening because of the subjectivity of reality. That's happening because of the subjectivity of reality. And that doesn't mean we're misremembering, though. That's what you have. That's the key point here. It doesn't actually mean we're misremembering. And so people come in here and they want to know like what's behind the Mandela effect. And I have some pretty good ideas as to what's behind it. And I think that it has to do with the subjectivity of reality. Because honestly, I always viewed reality that way. And I actually, in the past couple of years, have started to realize that it's that other people don't see it as subjective. So for me, the awakening has been realizing other people don't see it that way, because I've always seen it that way. If you go to my Twitter, if you aren't following me on Twitter, I'm Jeff Pilkington. There's no Jeffrey. It's just Jeff. You can call me Jeff, everybody. I go by Jeff. The YouTube handle, I just made Jeffrey. But if you go to my Twitter, on the top of it, I talk about Scott Adams' 2 movies on one screen theory, where in the world, especially in the political world, like Republicans, Democrats, he talks about how we're seeing 2 different movies happening. That plays into the subjectivity of reality. And the Mandela effect is definitely connected to that. So if you haven't seen, it's pinned on the top of my Twitter profile, Jeff Pilkington. Watch my 10-minute video on 2 movies on one screen and the subjectivity of reality. I think I'm going to do a video on this coming up too, because it's a really good topic. Maybe I'll shoot that tonight or something. But I think that connects directly to the Mandela effect and what's happening. So let's see who is in here. If you're in here, say hi. Since we got 12 people in here. Hello from Washington State. Hello, Stan. You could only hear Yanni. That's interesting. What about Brainstorm and Green Needle? What'd you hear there? The stripes in the World Trade Center were actually going to restaurants, but they were just empty there, called the Sky Lobbies. That's interesting to know, Johan. Thanks. That's a mouthful. Which part's a mouthful? So we've got 12 people in here. Good to be back. What's up, Scabaret? Say hi, you guys, and I'll give you a shout out. Scabaret, I've seen you on the videos for sure. Green Needle, can you change it to Brainstorm in your brain? Can you, when you listen to it, can you also hear Brainstorm, or do you just hear Green Needle? I'm curious what you hear comparatively. Very curious. So you hear Brainstorm. That's interesting that you don't change it. Wow, so you only hear Green Needle. Because when we disagree on things, and you know how when somebody is like, they believe something or they remember something, which is Mandela effect, but they believe something and then the other person doesn't at all, and you don't understand how the person can't see it how you do. That's because the reality that they're experiencing is literally different than your reality. Like, they're literally different. So if I think one person seems crazy and the other person's like, no, what are you talking about? That person's normal. That's because in the reality that they are experiencing, that person is very real, is really that way to them. So I think when society gets there, I've always seen the world this way and realized that a lot of people don't. But when they do, I think that we're going to get to a better place. But check out my 2 movies, one screen on the top of my Twitter profile where I go into this, and I talk about people that I think do see both movies too. My Twitter's Jeff Pilkington. I go into detail, and it's obviously Jeff with a G. I'm a G off. So I think that's interesting. And then the second thing, so I wanted to mention that, and then the other thing that somebody mentioned to me recently is this idea of mentalization. And mentalization relates to the two movies on one screen, but the idea of it is there was a test study, and what happened was it was a teacher and a child in the room. It was like I think a 4-year-old child, and she had a bag of M&Ms. And she before the child could see, she emptied the M&Ms out and she put pencils in the bag. So there were pencils in there. And then she asked the child, "What's in the bag, pencils or M&Ms?" And the child said M&Ms because he didn't know that the pencils were in there. So he said M&Ms. And then she emptied the bag and showed that it was pencils and not M&Ms. And the child was like, "Oh, you tricked me." But then she asked the child because the child now knew that it was actually pencils. Okay. So then she asked the child, your friend out in the hall, if they see this bag right now, what if I put the pencils back in the bag and I show it to your friend out in the hall, what are they going to say are in this bag? And the child said that the kid out in the hall would say pencils. Does that make sense? Because the child out in the hall is going to see a bag of M&Ms, and to them, it's going to look like M&Ms as well, right? They're not going to know there's pencils on there. But the child who was 4 thought that the child in the hall would say pencils because he now knew it was pencils. You understand? So we think that other people would hold our belief because we know something. And that's not the case. And it's this idea in psychology of mentalization. And I think that's going on a grander scale. And I think the Mandela effect actually plays into that as well. But does that make sense with the pencils in M&Ms? So, but they found as the children aged that they actually were able to then know that like the child out in the hall would think that it was M&Ms. So it's being able to understand what another person might be thinking something else and what they might be thinking, if that makes sense. This stuff is really easy for me for some reason and always has been, but I've realized in the past couple of years that a lot of people it's really hard for. I didn't know that because I'm in my own movie like everybody. So that's something so think about that, and think about that in regards to thinking and perspective and the Mandela effect, and that the child thought that because they now knew pencils were in the M&Ms bag, that the other kid out in the hall would also know that when they wouldn't. Okay? Because we're all seeing our own world. Like that's the trick, is we're all seeing our own world. Let's go back to your questions. You were listening to a podcast on the radio the other night, and one guy stated that when we dream, we actually leaving our bodies and living in alternate realities. Anything's possible. There's a lot of mysteries around dreaming. So we've got 9 people coming in and out. If you're here, say hello, so I know who else is here. It is interesting about dreaming, because there's a lot of studies about that, Johan. They're still trying to figure out sleep. REM sleep. I think REM sleep's the one where you dream, right? That's the one they know the least about as to what's happening. And then there's like a regular sleep. There's light sleep. How much sleep do you guys get? Because I get about 5 hours a night. Last night I got more. Last night I got 7 hours. I was exhausted, but usually it's 5-6 hours max. Let's see, 7 hours. Yeah, I get 7 hours here and there, but not a ton. Yeah, so the story makes sense to you guys. So that's interesting. A few Mandela effects I came across. I saw an interview. I saw Need Input had a Sinbad interview up. Sinbad was kind of making a joke about how they threw all the tapes away or something of Shazam. So I think the impression I got from from Sinbad interview was like, he's like, yo, all these people think this. I don't know why they think this, and he was just kind of like making a joke about it because he has no clue. It sounded like he had no clue why people think that. I'm not going to get into any conspiracy about, he knows or something. I don't think any of that's going on. I just think he had no idea. He has no idea why people think that he was in a movie called Shazam, even though I remember it. And it is kind of weird because I remember it too. So I saw that was interesting. And then I saw, what's his name? Moneybags has been posting some interesting ones. There was one that I saw, I don't remember. He posted something. Let me see what the one that I thought was particularly interesting. No, it wasn't that one. It was, I know what it was. It was that E.T. one. So when E.T. in the final scene, when he goes, "I'll be right here," or whatever, do you remember putting his hand on the heart or the head? Is E.T. on Elliot's heart or on the head at the end, where he's like, "I'll be right here"? Because he's always put it on the head apparently, and people remember the heart. Wasn't the heart like the whole thing? Wasn't the heart like that was the whole thing? Is like, "I'll be right here," like in your heart, because it's always been the head. That one was weird to me. I saw Moneybags talking about that. That was really weird. Yeah, it was always heart, but it's always been head apparently. I'll talk about that in the video. Another big one I wanted to share with you guys and see what you thought about this was the E.T. one was big. Have you seen Pulp Fiction? Because people remember the guy Winston Wolfe, that he was like Mr. Fix-It, and at the end he drives away in a sports car. You remember that in Pulp Fiction? Well, people remember that license plate being Mr. Wolf on it, on the license plate. And now if you watch the end scene, the license plate is 3ABM581. But people are like, I remember Mr. Wolf's license plate being, I remember the license plate being Mr. Wolf, and it's now changed to like some letters and numbers. So for those Pulp Fiction fans, if you've seen it, do you remember Mr. Wolf or do you remember that new license plate? Maybe I'll put that in an upcoming video. I'm not that familiar with Pulp Fiction, so I don't really remember either way. But the E.T. one gets me for sure. So I thought I'd share those. Let's see, is there one other in this preview that I could share? Let's see. I was thinking about, what was another one that got me? I think, let me see. Oh, the what color was Cruella de Vil's jacket? Because Cruella de Vil's jacket's always been yellow, but people remember it being like polka dot stripes, like polka dots like the dogs. And people remember Cruella de Vil's jacket having polka dots, but it's always been yellow. I'm curious how you guys remember that. Because I actually remember the yellow. But then the polka dots seem weird. Maybe because the polka dots were from the movie with Glenn Close, and the Disney was the yellow jacket. How do you remember Cruella de Vil's jacket? Okay, so Scabray remembers just a regular license plate. What's front of him? Yeah, that's interesting, Grim. Hi, Grim Kusanage. So we've got the. I always thought E.T. was the heart. That's a big one. Sleep paralysis, Johan. Yeah, I don't know how to help you there. Stan, 5 to 7 hours sleep. Grim, 7 hours. Suzanne, you wake every 3 hours. That's interesting. Let's see. Okay, so just looking at your comments. The Pulp Fiction one is strange, you guys. Like a lot of people I've seen online talking about that. I don't know about it, but the biggest one for me is the E.T. So you remember polka dots on Cruella de Vil's jacket. A lot of people remember it. And now if you go back and look at the Disney movie, it's a yellow jacket. But I'll tell you the bigger one that gets me, as far as while we're talking about jackets, is you look at Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And her jacket's now red. Now, I remember Carmen Sandiego's jacket being yellow. That is a big one for me. I should have put that in the year-end video. I'm going to bring that one back in the next video because that is a big recent one for me. Carmen Sandiego's jacket's red, and I remember it being yellow. And why would I remember that being yellow? So Carmen Sandiego really gets me. Her red jacket. And then we got Cruella de Vil's jacket going from polka dots to yellow. So we got some changes happening in that regard. Okay, let's see your comments here. It's like it's, make sure this thing isn't freezing up. Can you guys hear me? There we go. It's back. Had some technical difficulties. I think it reset the room or something. I don't know what happened. You never liked DT, but you thought it was the heart. You're 52 and you remember which one, Susan. You never liked DT, but you thought it was the heart. Yeah, heaps of times. Mr. Wolf thing's weird. That gets people. Scabray doesn't remember the Pulp Fiction. That's interesting. The polka dots. Do you remember the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz having a hatch on his chest? No. A hatch. I don't recall either way on that. I can't remember. Am I the only one that thinks Disneyland opened May 5th, 1955? I don't remember on Disneyland, but you know one that's interesting that pertains to my hometown of St. Louis is, did you guys know Walt Disney World was going to be in St. Louis, Missouri? And there's actually plans online and articles, if you Google it, all the plans to put Disney World in St. Louis on the riverfront, like next to Busch Stadium. And it wasn't put in St. Louis because Mr. Bush wanted to have beer at the ballpark, and Disney didn't want beer. And so Disney packed up and went to Florida and opened Disney World in Florida. But if they had come to an agreement, we would have Disney World in St. Louis, Missouri. Google it and check it out. That one is really interesting. Tin Man from Missouri. I don't remember about the hatch either way. I don't remember the date Disneyland opened. E.T. and the Heart. What's Bender? I don't know about Bender. If you're here, say hi. Be sure to like the video. Always like likes. They're great. If you haven't liked it, maybe we can get to 15 likes again today, like last time. That would be cool. Yeah, the hurricane, 9/11, September 11th really gets me. I don't remember the hurricane headed towards New York on September 11th. Do you remember the hurricane? That's weird. And now the vertical white stripes headed down the Twin Tower gets me because I don't remember the white stripes being there. So those both are weird. Let's see. What other ones? Oh, the Indiana Jones hat. That's weird, you guys. Do you remember Indiana Jones' hat looking so weird? What's his name was talking about that? Moneybags. There was a. Yeah, the hurricane gets me. There was a Wall Street crash of 1929, and it was a big disaster. It started that summer, and it went into October. And people are remembering there were like a bunch of suicides around the crash or right after the crash of Wall Street. And now history is saying that there were no suicides after the big Wall Street crash. Do you remember there being reports of suicide and people dying after the crash? Because now it says there's none. In history, there were no deaths after the Wall Street crash. How does that happen? Like, how are there no deaths after the Wall Street crash? So, I don't know. That was getting a lot of people. I think if I have any others to share here, I think there's some good ones for today. If I think of more in the next few minutes, I'll share some more. Yeah, heaps of people suicided. No, none did, apparently. Nobody did. And historians have written about it, and it's like freaking people out. Here, I'll share the link with you guys about the Wall Street crash. Like, it's really strange. I mean, this could be a new big one because people remember that, and it's like freaking people out. Yeah, people jumping from windows, right? People jumping from windows, a Wall Street crash. Well, now it says there was nobody. Right. Yeah, I posted a link in the chat to like a history article about it. But that one was really getting a lot of people. So there's, a handful of Mandela effects. I'll probably put some of those in the next video. But I like to give you guys a preview who come here for the live. If you come for the live, you get a bit of a preview of some ones for next week. Let's see here. What else do I want to talk about? So yeah, in summary, I really wanted to say I think that we're learning a lot about the world and society and our brains and how we think. And I think the Mandela effect is, an expansion of thought and kind of just higher awareness about all that's happening. And I'll leave it at that for now as far as what it all could mean. But I think the picture's slowly becoming more clear as we just all learn more and more about what it all means. But I'll tell you, Yanni Laurel, Brainstorm, Green Needle, and the guy on the swing. Remember the dress? The dress was weird. What color is the dress? All those plug into it because it's sensory. I wrote an article about the seventh sense and how perception is the seventh sense and how we're realizing seventh sense. Because think about this. Back when they were a caveman, when they were, in the cavemen cavewoman days, and they were eating, they were eating, whatever, fish or chicken or whatever. Well, if everybody liked fish and one person didn't like eating fish, they really wouldn't understand. They didn't understand why one person didn't like fish. So the sensories, it's like they didn't have enough concept of their own sense of taste that why somebody else would be different sense of taste wouldn't have made sense. And so now when people have different views in their perception, we're at a place in humanity where when someone has a different view, it's like the M&Ms and the pencil experiment I talked about. We don't understand how someone has a different view than we do. And I think that plays into the subjectivity of reality. We're all experiencing our own version. I posted my video top of Twitter. I talked about this in more detail, but check my top of my Twitter, Jeff Pilkington, for more detail on that. GEOFFPILKINGTON. But the two movies, one screen, and reality being subjective, and the M&Ms pencils experiment, and the Mandela effect. They all play into the simulation theory. Plays into this. All of that is part of this, and I think that we're going to learn more and more about it as time goes on here. Let's see what we got. You always told people jumped out windows and such. Yeah, that was the Wall Street thing. It's crazy. Rubbermaid being spelled like that, made from rubber. Now I look, it's Rubbermaid. That's interesting, Michelle. I haven't heard of that one. Hi, Michelle L. How you doing? Let's see. Christopher Lee Martins, what's happening? The Mandela effect is a result of time-space dilation. Virtual reality is so good we just call it reality. Gets a little fringy around the edges. Okay, so that's one theory I've talked about too, which is interesting, is that our virtual reality is going to be so good that you won't be able to distinguish it from actual reality. So did we all put on virtual reality spectacles, or spectacles, headsets, and then forget that we have them on? Maybe we're in virtual reality right now. Literally, is this just a rendering? Is this rendered? Are we just really, really good software? Is your virtual headset on right now and you don't know it? Is this just software, this pen? Is everything you're seeing just, extensions of what's in the computer? Because we created this ourselves, or another species created it, or you're on the other end playing the virtual reality with you in it. It's like that Roy scene. There's a Roy scene in that popular show. What's that popular show with Roy and something? But it's like he goes into a virtual reality, puts the headset on, and then it's like his life in the virtual reality. So that's really, really interesting because the mysteries of the universe all play into simulation theory, and that's what's happening. really, really smart people, Elon Musk and such, say the likelihood we're in a simulation, that we're not in a simulation, is like billions to one that we're not. So, like, it's getting more likely all the time. Let's put it that way. So yeah, Christopher, that's a really interesting point. Yes, I would only see yellow and white. Could not see blue no matter how hard I tried. Yeah, on the dress, Susan, that's interesting. It's a tough one. The one where Vin Diesel comes out as bisexual still gets me because I actually remember Vin Diesel coming. Yeah, that gets a lot of people. That's really interesting, Johan. Oh, I'm scrolling through your comments. Oh, hi, Roma. Greetings from Russia. Some people I didn't necessarily see. What's up, Roma? We all live in Punxsutawney. We are more like avatars. We are the avateers. Okay, Christopher. Well, if we're the avateers, what's going on the other end? So if we're the avateers, what created us and what's on the other end? That's a question for Christopher. Would the VR theory exist without the Matrix movies? It's certainly possible, Grim. It's certainly possible. Who's to say it's anything like what the Matrix movies say? Could be anything. A simulation could mean anything. There's a world of options. But the options are getting more likely to simulation of some type. We don't know what. I'm going to go for 3 more minutes. I'll go till 40. Smaller crowd tonight. We had, I think we had like 20 people in here. Usually we get 30. Maybe I'm a little earlier than normal. I think I'm a little earlier than normal. Let's see. The VR theory exists without the Matrix. Yeah, we talked about that. Einstein said we can travel back in time. Yeah, a lot of people think that like time travel. A lot of people think that the past, that we can change the past from the present. So your past, people are now saying, is malleable. Like you can actually change your past, which is really interesting. That we can change the past from the present, just like you can change, like the past is as malleable as the present and future. That is really interesting. Still happening. I have not seen the Matrix movie, so I don't understand. Well, Groundhog Day. Oh yeah, well, check it, Susan. You should check out the Matrix movie. It's really good. It's really, really good, actually. Check them all out. They're cool. What happened to the directors of that? Are they still making movies? Okay, think Groundhog Day, but Groundhog Day was reliving the same movie all the time. Like it was It was the same. He kept reliving the same day every day. So I don't know how that plays in because every day is different for us. So how does that connect to Groundhog Day? I'd be curious. The universe is done, fixed. We are the only movement. The universe is fixed. That's interesting. I've actually heard people say that. Very, very interesting. My phone's going. Phone is having fun tonight. Okay. Well, you guys, this was fun, and we had a bit of a smaller crowd in tonight. I think it's because I'm earlier, but it was good chatting with you guys. But that's the stuff to think about. Think about Yanni Laurel and all that in the swing and such. Be sure to like this video if you didn't. If you're liking the video, I appreciate it. If you guys give it a like. It's always great chatting with you guys. I love seeing you on the chat. I'm going to have a couple more videos out next week. Podcast going to post tomorrow where we're previewing the year ahead. Kira and I talk about what's coming up 2020. So that's a fun one we're posting tomorrow. I was on set all day yesterday, so I was working, doing movie stuff and all that. It's always fun. And I want to keep providing, good content. I'm going to have other topics too. I mix other topics in. So I'm hoping to keep growing it. Follow me on Twitter. I talk about this at the top of my Twitter profile. It's Jeff Pilkington. You'll see it pinned, GEOFF. I pinned it at the top of my Twitter profile. So follow me, check me out there. What else do we got? Wrap this up. Yeah, the Groundhog Day, Chris, is really interesting. I'm going to think about that. 4th Matrix movie, yeah, for sure. You're welcome, Susan, and thank you guys for being here. We did 40 minutes tonight. Gave you, a handful of Mandela effects. Do some videos on those and more next week. I love doing these lives with you once a month. Still want to get them more often, maybe twice a month. I keep mixing in other topics. Thanks for watching our podcast. We're going to have some good guests coming up on the podcast, so be sure to check out those. Like the video if you haven't already. And thank you guys. Let's see, any other final ones? Hey, Sean, you're welcome. Let me know if you do one on meditation in the future. Okay. How so, Sean? I'm curious your thoughts. Write them in the comments of this video, maybe. I'll check it out. I'm curious what you mean about meditation. Yeah, write in the comments. I'll answer more. So thank you guys, and we'll do another one soon. And have a wonderful night. I'll see you soon. Thanks. Later.